Hello and welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends spin a wheel every day in the month of October. It chooses the horror movie and they discuss it. Today we're talking about the 1931 film Frankenstein, which was directed by James Whale. I'm your co-host Alec.
Wait, we're doing Frankenstein?
Yeah.
I thought we were doing Frankenweenie.
Oh, Eric.
I'm joking. I'm Eric, and with us is a new guest, Zach Zatet. Zach, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks guys. Thanks for having me on. Super excited. But if we're really doing Frankenweenie, I gotta go because I didn't watch that one.
It's a good movie. I'm not saying it's bad. It's awesome.
I'll put it on my list.
Zach, thank you for joining. Yeah, man, I was thinking about it, like, the three of us all probably hung out in London just about 10 years ago now.
Good times.
Very good times. We were studying abroad. Eric, you were there.
I was not. I piggybacked off of Alex Study Abroad. I just came out there and was like, where are we going? It's my spring break. And then it was his spring break, so we just went to Amsterdam, and the rest is history.
Yep, we went to Amsterdam.
Yeah, and later on, Zach, you'll have a cool story to tell about seeing Frankenstein in London when we lived out there. So definitely segue into that at some point. But yeah, man, thank you for joining. So we always like to start with like new guests and ask kind of like, what's your history with horror? Like, what draws you to horror films? Do you have a favorite? I mean, what's your story?
My history to horror films, I kind of grew up with parents that weren't really into ever having like any horror movie on TV. They would always like flip it off. I think my mom just doesn't like them because they're scary. So like for a long time, I was like very anti-horror movies. I was like, it's not my thing. It's not my genre. But as I get older, like especially like in college, post-college, friends, who like horror movies. And, I'm not a huge horror movie person, but I like them. I appreciate them. And I definitely realize like there are some amazing, critically acclaimed horror movies. And yeah, so I'm a horror movie guy.
Well, it's the perfect time of year to get into it too. But Eric, was this your first time seeing Frankenstein?
Oh, absolutely not. I used to watch all these Universal movies with my grandpa back in the day. I think I got into it like when I was about 10 years old, a little older. We would watch this one, Dracula, and The Wolfman a lot. I always wanted to watch The Invisible Man with him. Never got to do that. But it was like this, Dracula, and he had so much knowledge. And he'd be like, oh yeah, Claude Rains. He was the Invisible Man. He's also in The Wolfman. And it was kind of cool to see these Universal characters have like a lineage. Like Boris Karloff was Frankenstein. He was also the Mummy. Claude Rains was the father of the Wolfman in The Wolfman and also the Invisible Man. And it's just so cool. Like Lon Chaney was the Phantom of the Opera. His son was the Wolfman.
Yeah.
I just love that whole history of Universal monsters and the stardom and star power.
Yeah, man. It's almost like happening again now with superhero movies, but everybody says that. But I think what is kind of cool is like the Jason, Freddy, and Michael Myers. Those are almost like the modern versions of these Universal horror monsters, basically. It's like we get Freddy versus Jason, just like Wolfman meets Frankenstein. There's so many of them. And I don't know, I think they've become just as iconic as these Universal monsters in a weird way.
Yeah, I mean, I agree too. I think just like what you guys are saying, like these guys like become iconic. And I mean, Clive Owen, obviously who's playing like Henry Frankenstein, who's not necessarily the monster in this movie, but, kind of becomes in his own right, like very much a villain because he goes kind of crazy, which we can get into. But, Boris Karloff, like Eric, you were saying, the Universal horror monsters, they're iconic. They're huge. Yeah, I can totally remember like my grandma growing up talking about this movie, came out in 1931. And these are like the type of movies, the type of characters that like stick with us and kind of, they walked. So, more modern horror characters could run.
Yeah, it was part of the culture back then too. Like
Absolutely.
This was the scariest like shit back in the day by far.
Well, Zach and we were watching it together last weekend, and remember that scene, Zach, where it like kind of goes to a close up of Frankenstein's face, like almost like a like goes up for
A
the
jump cut.
right up to the monster's face.
Yep.
Dude, we were even saying, we're like, imagine you're like 10 years old and you're seeing this in theaters and you're a kid. Like this would
In the 30s.
right in the
Oh,
30s
God.
where you don't know anything to it.
Petrifying, like borderline petrifying. And even the narrator, like at the beginning, like this movie opens with the narrator, he's in front of the curtain. It almost like has this like horrifying, eerie, like vaudeville effect. He's got like that light that's giving him that like creepy shadow vibe. And he even says, like, right before, it segues into the next, scene after the burial scene, we've warned you. So
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
it's scary.
Two things really quick about that. I love that. Like, imagine in 1931, they're like, there's no MPAA, there's no rating
There's no
system.
like disclaimer at the front. Yeah.
Right. We need to be
Mhm.
like, "Hey guys, just so you know, this is probably gonna mess some people up. So just be aware. It's basically don't you can't like I don't even know if suing is a thing at this point, but it's like just don't do anything." But then the other thing is the Treehouse of Horror, the first 5 seasons of the Treehouse of Horror, it's Marge Simpson doing a nod to this, and I never realized that. She would walk out and she'd be like, "Hi guys, like tonight's episode is gonna be
Ah.
a
Right.
little bit
Yeah.
more scary than normal, so just to let you know, we're warning you." And I was like, "Whoa."
No letters to Fox.
Just so you know, you're not gonna come out the way you came in.
But yeah, man, when I think of Universal movies, I do think of you though, Eric, just because you've always had like the toys and you would always talk about how much you loved the Wolfman as a kid.
Oh yeah, I still have like plush Universal monster toys and figures, and I got into collecting all that stuff back in the day. But nothing out of control, but a decent collection.
I guess let's move into like the plot a little bit. So starts off with you've got a Dr. Frankenstein and his
Mhm.
sidekick, which I always thought it was Igor. I guess it's
Well,
Fritz.
also I always thought it was Victor, and I completely forgot it's Henry. He's Henry, and Igor is Fritz, and the dad is Victor, the old man with the wine.
Right.
Oh,
So I was
okay.
like, "Oh, Henry, Victor, Igor, Fritz." It's like, "Oh, I had it all wrong."
And I
I know.
believe the father, the old man with the wine and the awesome hat, which we should totally talk about more
Yeah,
later. Yeah, I think his name's Baron.
he's Victor. I'm pretty sure. Baron Frankenstein,
Baron Frankenstein, right.
and there was like a Burgermeister or whatever. I forgot what
Yeah.
those called.
Yeah, Henry's
It's like
father.
we're old school right now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, he's this it's like he's married, but he's not happy, and he wants to like prove to the world, like, I am this amazing scientist, I am God, I can bring life back
Mhm.
from the dead. And so him and his little guy Fritz are stealing bodies to make a zombie, basically. And just that idea is fucking terrifying that there's two guys in your town digging up graves, taking body parts to make one human. Like it's pretty messed up.
Yeah, and he went into like I discovered a new type of ray or something, or spectrum ray, and using lightning, he can bring that into the body he created. It's not just one dead body. He put this like puzzle together, like pieces from multiple bodies and fresh
Right.
organs and fresh this and that. Crazy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's also obsessed with his work, which is like I have a beautiful future. I have this. And he's like, I just need to do this. I need to get a windmill in the middle of nowhere and just work to the point where everyone's like concerned about me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. He has this perfect life. So why do you think he is more interested in this? Like it's basically like his wife is about to leave him. She's got this other guy. The father's concerned. It's like what's driving him to do
The
this?
biggest scientific discovery ever.
Yeah.
The whole life and death. There's no answer, and he's about to find it. That is why he's obsessed.
Yeah. I wonder why though Fritz cares though. And like he's like a hunchback guy that's just like, yeah, I'll do whatever
Mhm.
you say.
Well, hey Fritz, you do you like your crippled hunchback body? Do you want to be put in another body? Like work with me, and
Oh, maybe.
I can eventually take your brain and put it in anything you want.
Hmm. Yeah.
And you can also live forever because I can just keep creating you again.
Fuck. That's a good
Yeah.
point. Huh. Yeah. So another thing is Fritz goes in, steals the brain. There's the abnormal brain and then the normal brain, which obviously just completely reminds me of Young Frankenstein. And I just didn't think about it this way. Young Frankenstein is like the original scary movie to Scream.
Yeah, it is. And also, I didn't catch this until watching this time when they're doing like the toast at the end, and they're like, "To young Frankenstein," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh shit, that's where it comes from." Okay. Yeah, and I also want to say one other thing. This movie, like, we're just going through like the plot right now. It's very considerate of my time. It is only an hour and 11 minutes, which I appreciate. It's a great
Mhm.
ride. It's fun. I recommend, if you haven't seen Frankenstein, the 1931, watch it. It's only an hour and 11 minutes of your time.
Yeah. Yeah, all those older movies. I mean, we did Creature from the Black Lagoon, I don't know, like a month ago, and that one was the same thing. It was like an hour 19. We've got The Wolfman coming up. So we're starting to get into these movies now, but I don't really think they could do much more. I mean, at that time in
At the
1931,
time, yeah.
yeah, they didn't have enough editing resources and film and be like, all right. And I mean, how expensive must it have been to build that, not build the town, but to have so many extras and just burning a
Yes.
windmill down and stuff. And yeah,
Yeah.
And for the time, it's, you can argue really that they did such a good job for what they could have. People say, oh, when The Wizard of Oz was made like a couple years later, like at the time, like they did such a good job with the visual effects. I think that could really be said about this movie too, especially that the whole movie is black and white. Just like everything that they use, like as far as like fire effects, the shadow effects, like you said, all the extras and stuff. This at the time was probably a big deal and probably a really exciting movie for a lot of people to go see.
you're right, Zach. People seeing Wizard of Oz must have just been like, oh, colors. Like, just that
Right,
would have immediately made you biased to liking it, I feel like. Where
right.
if you look at this movie, I'm not saying it's better than Wizard of Oz or not, but like, there's so much going on in this movie. And I'm really trying to think of it as like a kid in 1931.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't even know what to think anymore. You'd be like, I
That all
don't.
reminds me of, I don't know which comedian says it, but like imagine going back to this time, like 1931, which is like 90 years ago, and just putting on Transformers to a crowd. And just like watching them react to like the robots fighting and just the color and just like what is happening. I think that's, if I ever had a time machine, I think that's the first. All right, go back to 1931, find a theater, plug in. I got to bring a DVD player back with me. I got to figure out the chords and the DVD, and then play Transformers to the crowd and just enjoy the reaction. Just
Yeah.
everyone losing their mind.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Like literally shitting their pants. They're like, oh my God, the future.
Well, so Zach, you saw this movie. I mean, sorry, you saw this play done in London, and that must have been crazy because I know Mary Shelley. She's from London. She wrote this. And it doesn't
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
matter, but
1818 was when the novel was first. The modern Prometheus, I think it was called.
Yeah, that's
oh,
exactly right. And I think that the play initially opened at the English Opera House in July of 1823. And at the time, it's funny that you guys were already mentioning, the scary, like, we're warning you effect. Because at the time when they turned the novel into a play, they advertise it as like, don't bring your wives, don't bring your children, this play, it's really like kind of messed up. So we're warning you. And it was, yeah, like a big deal at the time, almost like the movie in its own right broke theatrical limits and paved the way for sort of this whole genre of, fantastical theater presentation. And like you were mentioning, Alec, like the opening of the movie, like in the graveyard and stuff, I think that the whole movie sort of has a very theatrical feel to it and is really kind of has the same scariness and horror effect like the movie.
really quick, I just want to say one thing that you said, where you're like, they said, don't bring your wives, don't bring your kids. It's like this was written by a woman.
Yeah, it was written by a woman,
Yep,
right?
it's
I just think
crazy.
that's so nuts that yeah, it would be like this is too scary for women, but it's written by a woman.
I mean, there's a quote that I found that Mary Shelley apparently said after she went to see it shortly after it opened. Lo and behold, I found myself famous. Frankenstein has a prodigious success as a drama. In the early performances, all the ladies fainted and hubbed ensued. So,
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I was thinking like you're gonna say like, yeah, she went to go see it, but they didn't let her in. It's like what? Like, it's like, I wrote this shit.
Oh my god. So Zach, what compared to the play, was there anything that stood out like as different, or did you like one better?
It was such a long time ago that I saw the play. It was 2011. I kind of remember mostly the second act, like when after like Frankenstein has created the monster and just like sort of the relationship Benedict Cumberbatch, who played Frankenstein,
Oh wow.
formed with the monster. Yeah, and he did like such a great job. But I just like remember it being this big grand production. The actress who played Elizabeth, I remember doing a really great job. Obviously, in this movie, played by the very famous Mae Clarke at the time, one of the biggest movie stars. I definitely can remember that name. and I think that it was great. I really enjoyed that production.
But the one thing that I did remember hearing about in the play at least was that the monster, like, rapes somebody, and that's obviously not in the movie. Do you remember that standing out at all or no?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that part. I think that the monster rapes Elizabeth, if I remember correctly. Um,
Really?
yeah, actually, I can't believe I forgot about that.
Yeah, because I think that would add a whole nother layer to the movie where it's like Dr. Frankenstein would be like, "All right, I gotta kill this thing now." Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it now. But, so this movie though, the budget was $226,000, which obviously by today's standards is nothing, but it made $12 million in 1931. I mean, that must have blown people's minds away, these studio production companies.
Oh yeah, set that studio up.
And I wonder, because this was Universal, what came first? Was this the first one or was Dracula first?
I think Phantom of the Opera, Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what other ones came. I think The Invisible Man came before too.
Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, but I mean, obviously enough that this could have continued this, and up until what, the mid '50s, these were pretty much coming out like every other year. Like,
Oh yeah, the Mummy I think came out like a year or two later. You got all the Dracula. Dracula came before this too, I think.
okay, yeah. So obviously, you liked this movie though.
Loved it, dude.
Yeah,
I love watching it, man. And it's so short that you don't get like this is so old and stuff. It really moves quick. Like you're 20 minutes in, he gets the monster up on its feet. You're about half an hour in, the monster's loose, or like a half an hour later, the monster's loose and kills that girl, drowns that girl. Which like that scene, dude, like
Maria.
that scene must have been some bad feeling in the theater when they first saw Frankenstein going up to that girl. That must have been so much like, oh no, this is not going to go well. And it happens. And then Q2, the wedding, and Frankenstein's still on the loose, and then the mob. And then it just ends. You know? It's just quick. It's just quick.
So,
Yeah.
what did you guys think of that scene? About that scene with Maria?
Tension. Just tension. It's like this could go good, and he could just I'm bored of flower throwing and leave, or he literally runs out of flowers and freaks out.
Yeah. What did you
Yeah.
think, Alec?
The best way I can describe it is it's like watching a kid by itself with like a loaded handgun. You're like, I don't
Yeah.
know what the hell is about to happen. And yeah, they could just put it down and walk away, or a horrible thing could happen. And unfortunately, the worst possible thing happens. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I
Yeah.
love the Monster Squad. They spin that on the head where Frankenstein like befriends this little girl and like is protective of this little girl instead of killing them. And it's kind of like Lenny from Mice and Men too. It reminds me of. Also, wow, played by Lon Chaney Jr., the original Wolfman in the original Mice and Men. So that's kind of
Huh.
cool. I didn't think of that. One other thing I wanted to bring up, Alec, Jack Pierce, another Universal icon. He did the makeup for the Mummy, Frankenstein, Wolfman. I think it took 4 hours to apply the makeup to Boris Karloff and 2 hours to take it off.
Oh.
And the thing, I think I saw a picture somewhere of like Karloff smoking a cigarette in between putting the makeup on. I mean, he must have been just chain smoking while getting this makeup put on.
That's all he can do, really.
That's all you can do. Drink coffee and smoke cigarettes as you sit in a chair.
Well, the makeup was great. I mean, his head, I'm still
It's
kind of
insane.
like, I mean, they must have just like raised it and then flattened it, but it looks great.
Groundbreaking prosthetics. CGI didn't exist, so this was all legit makeup. And I have a note here. Karloff's role as Frankenstein's monster was physically demanding, a bulky costume with 4-inch platform boots, each weighing 11 pounds. So walking around all day with those shoes is like, gotta have that leg strength, you know? It's leg day every day when you're Boris Karloff.
Yeah. Well, one thing I kind of want to ask you guys almost about like cultural impact of this movie.
Mm.
It's so weird because I feel like everybody, when they're a kid and even now, we still make the mistakes. Everybody thinks that the monster is Frankenstein.
Yeah, well, it's Frankenstein's monster, but yeah, back in the day, you used to think Frankenstein. That's Frankenstein. That's just everyone knows that.
I know, but it is the doctor, and even in Monster Squad, they even call him Frank. So it's just kind of like it's just interesting that nobody really.
They never give him the name. They just call him the monster. He's a monster. It's
I
a
know.
monster.
It's almost like they've merged into one over time.
What would be a better name for Frankenstein? Like Sebastian or something?
Sebastian.
Like you got a name. Like he didn't name it right when it's born. Like he created it. He should have named Frankenstein. Like, oh yeah.
He's like, I throw the girl into the sea. My name is Sebastian.
I don't know. I was thinking of a name. That's the first one that popped in my head. Like, Sebastian, come on. Sit down, Sebastian. All right, get up. Fritz, leave Sebastian alone, Fritz. Igor.
Well, let's talk about Fritz being a dick to him. Yeah, it's almost like why is he picking on him because other people have picked on Fritz his whole life because he's different? So he's like, I can finally poke the stick at someone else.
He was totally egging him on. Yeah, it was that. Because, like, not Victor, Henry Frankenstein was like, get away, get away, get away. And he didn't get away. He didn't.
Yeah.
Remember? And it's like, dude, listen to me. Go away. And he's like, yeah, I got a fire stick. You're scared of me. And then he would go down into, like, the dungeon area and still antagonize him. And it's like, well, this is what happens. You play with fire. You literally play with fire. You get the Frankenstein's monster breaking your neck.
Yeah. Two things that when Zach and I were watching it, I noticed too, like big editing kind of like no-nos. But even back then, I was like, fuck it. It's 1931. What are you going to do? In the beginning, when they're going up the hill, they've got the body on the wagon and they're going up. Zach, remember that? It just had that like cut where like literally you see them going up the hill and then all of a sudden they're like 10 feet in front of them. Did you notice that, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I just let that go. I don't even think of it.
Yeah. Of course. But then the other thing I noticed is when right in the beginning too, when they're unveiling the body, you see the doctors lift up the sheet, and then it cuts to a close up, and then they lift up the sheet again, and I was just like,
yeah, no, I saw that. Yeah, no, you just let it go, dude.
Let it go.
Dude, they only have so much film and so much time in a day to do all that stuff back then. Like, it must have been such a brutal process to make a film back then. Like,
right. And I'm only nitpicking because films are so commonplace now, but back then nobody would notice or give a fuck. They'd be like, "There's people walking. They're walking up a hill. Oh my god, they're walking!" Like, you know,
he just lit his cigarette twice. Like,
I do that. Like I do that too. Oh my god! And like you're just freaking out because there's people just doing stuff on camera. So like, yeah.
Well, one last thing, I want to have fun with this. So, if they were to make a Frankenstein now, and they did make a Victor Frankenstein movie with Daniel Radcliffe, and I forgot Professor X. What's his name? I'm drawing a blank.
Patrick Stewart?
No, not that professor. The young one.
John Malkovich?
No, McAvoy.
McAvoy. John McAvoy.
Yeah.
Malkovich. Yeah.
John Malkovich as the young Victor. No, they made that. They made I Frankenstein with oh my god, I'm so bad with names right now.
Aaron Eckhart.
Yes. I want to have fun. I want to say, let's pick our cast right now.
Okay.
Today. Do you want me to go first? I have a couple.
Yes.
So for Frankenstein's monster, I was thinking Javier Bardem, and he was also slated to play Frankenstein's monster in the Dark Universe with like Russell Crowe and Tom Cruise. So he would have been fantastic.
There you go, Eric.
If you want to go like super muscular, super strong Frankenstein, do Batista. I don't know if you know who he is. He's Drax the Destroyer. Could be a good one too. Victor, the older father. I was thinking Anthony Hopkins could be a great role for that. Yeah. Henry, aka the It's Alive, played by so I would say my number one pick, I have four, would be Ewan McGregor would probably be my number one.
Great choice.
Yeah.
Rami Malek from Bohemian Rhapsody would be great. Played
he'd be good, yeah.
And then Alec, you might like this pick, Michael C. Hall, breaking out of television a little bit, and he'd be a good one, right?
Yeah, he would be good.
My other one was Mads Mikkelsen. I think he was he's been in a few movies. You'd recognize him. I forgot which one I just saw him in. It was like a foreign film. Oh, and then Igor or Fritz. I got two choices: Jack Black, Danny DeVito.
Yep.
One or the other. Either one would be great. One would be. I would love Danny DeVito.
Are they available?
Just get. I want Jack Black to be like, yes. Abby, abnormal brain, like all like
climbing up the pole to like cut the corpse, like with the knife in his mouth, like.
But not funny acting, like really serious acting, like.
Jack Black is great, yeah.
King Kong acting. No, I'm kidding. And then I mean, there's the Bride of Frankenstein too, which doesn't really come into this.
Oh yeah.
I'd like to see Christina Ricci play the bride.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Anne Hathaway, I think, would make a good bride. And then the up and coming, I mean, she's already a star now. Florence Pugh, we just watched her in Midsommar. I think she'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I know I just named off every one of your choices too, but you guys go.
I didn't think about it until now, but I have mine. Zach,
all right, do it.
No, Zach, you got some?
Yeah, let me try and do this on the spot. I think my monster would have to be Brad Garrett
Oh.
You
from
mean
Everybody
Robert?
Loves.
He did that in the Apple commercial, right?
I don't know.
With a Christmas commercial. You ever see that Christmas commercial where he comes out as Frankenstein? That's a perfect choice.
Raymond.
Yeah.
Victor, Victor, Victor.
Who else you got, Zach?
I think for Baron, the father, for some reason I want to go with like Rob Reiner.
That's so random, but I love it.
And I think for Frankenstein, I don't
Who'd
know,
you
for
want?
some reason, weirdly, I think Tobey Maguire would do a great Frankenstein.
No shit. Was that yours, Alec? Was that yours?
No. I just want to see that so bad now.
I want to see that too.
Like, let's go in a different direction.
Oh my God, Brad Garrett as the monster. Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking Tobey Maguire's the monster. That's why.
No, as
Oh no, as Frankenstein.
Right. I'm sorry. I don't know why my brain just went to the monster when you said Frankenstein.
I guess like maybe like Brad Pitt now, or like would be better.
what you got, Alec? Oh, who's your Fritz or Igor? Danny DeVito. You can say Danny DeVito. That's fine.
I love Danny DeVito. I gotta admit that. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name, but he was the short actor who's passed away. He was in, I think, all the Austin Powers movies.
Oh,
Vern Troyer.
Vern Troyer. Yeah, I would love to have seen him as Igor.
That would be, dude. That movie's out of control.
I just need to see a picture of all of our casts.
I mean, it might take me a while. I could try to
know.
Photoshop something.
So for mine, all right. So for the monster, I'm gonna go with the guy who is the tall man in Twin Peaks, or he was in Doctor Sleep. You know what I'm talking about, Eric?
Oh yeah, he's a little older now, but that's a good choice.
I think
He's a twin in real life too, right?
even better.
Yeah,
They
get two of them, like Dylan Sprouse. Oh, Dylan Sprouse. Didn't he say he was Frankenstein in Big Daddy?
yeah, there you go.
There you go, full circle.
And then for Fritz, Mike Myers.
Oh, nice.
Mike Myers. Is
That'd be
Fritz.
great.
Okay,
I can see
okay.
that.
We get heavy makeup. We get him kind of looking like that guy from the 300 who's just like, I can't lift my shield. We get him looking like that.
Just not getting along with anyone on set. Yeah.
Yep. For Dr. Frankenstein, I'm thinking John Hamm.
Yeah, that's a great choice. I wish
Great.
I went more with the John Hamm type.
Yeah. And then for Elizabeth, naturally, my brain goes to Margot Robbie just because put her
I
in
knew you were
anything.
gonna say that, Alec.
But I want to have what's her name, Keira Knightley as Elizabeth, and I also want to replace my John Hamm with Orlando Bloom, and I'll have Orlando Bloom be going Elizabeth the whole movie.
There you go. There you go. The whole movie. We've gone full circle.
We already know he can do it from Pirates of the Caribbean. I want to hear an hour and a half of Elizabeth the whole time.
Elizabeth.
So there's my cast.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I didn't get to cast a Elizabeth,
Bride or
so
Elizabeth,
I'd like
yeah.
to go with a Lizzo.
Lizzo? Okay.
Lizzo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll take it. Your movie's just awesome, by the way. You win.
I need to see this movie, Zach. I need to see your version of it. I mean, seriously, this is the oldest movie we've done on this podcast. I think that this is better than a lot of the movies that have come after it. And if you like horror movies, if you want to show your kids something that's probably not too scary, like this is probably a good place to start.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I agree.
You have any last minute thoughts on Frankenstein?
Just respect your elders. It's going to be 90 years old December 4th. Like, just respect it. It stood the test of time. And yeah, that's all I got to say.
I agree. Respect it. Great movie. I think if you are a real film lover, you should see this movie. And I think it's important.
Yeah. Well, Zach, thank you so much for joining us. If there's ever a movie that you see in the future, you're like, I want to jump on for that one, please let us know. We'd love to have you back.
Hell yeah.
You guys rock. This has been a blast. Thank you for having me on. I think everyone should watch Frankenstein.
There you go. Parting words.
All right, Eric. Well, what do you say you spin the wheel?
I think it's about that time. All right. Spinning. Donnie Darko.
Sweet.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Good one.
Yeah, I want to see if I can get my brother on for this one because I know he obviously loved this movie when he was in middle school and high school. So we'll see if I can get my brother on. Otherwise, Zach, thank you so much again. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Zach.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening in, and we'll see you all tomorrow with Donnie Darko.